I will start with a couple of announcements as always. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So hello everybody. Привет, привет. And our office hour on Friday was a major success, obviously, and we want to do it again. So on Friday, July 2nd, please come join us. If you have any questions about assessment, you want to talk about languages, we all are language nerds, and we need to talk about it. So please stop by our office hours. And if you have any questions. And what we also learned from our office hour on Friday is that some of you who are international students or international scholars may have been charged, may have received an insurance charge. Please, do not pay any bills from MSU. Please don't do it. This program is 100% free, so insurance bill should be dropped soon. Okay, we're working on it. We have our most experienced member of our team, Jennifer Nelson, is working on it right now, and she was with them for 30 years. We'll try to figure it out, but please don't pay any bills. And if your insurance bill is still on your account by Thursday, you can email Paula or me or Liz, or stop by our office hour on Friday. I'm sure we'll figure it out. And Paula, I don't know if you want to do it right now, but this is where you can check your charges. So this is the
link. You want to walk them through it to show them where they can see.
Let me put this link in the chat first of all, and if I find the chat. And if you have any questions, just email us, okay? Because this is important, and we will figure it out, okay? So this program is 100% free, okay? And some of you also had questions about Catalyst. Again, stop by our office hour on Friday. We'll try to help you. But this is what you need to do. Again, we have 4 TEL criteria. So this is what StarTalk wants us to do. And you have different parts of your portfolio that go under different TEL criteria. Okay, so your cover sheet goes here. Group oral production task goes here. Under PF1, performance and feedback. Multimodal assessment's optional, so don't worry about it. But if you have it, upload it under PF1. Self-assessment goes under PF5. And all of your rubrics for group oral production task or for multimodal assessment will go under learning tools LT4. Okay, everything is good? Excellent. And this is an exciting week for all of us. This is the week of demonstration. This is a demonstration program. Okay, StarTalk has different types of programs. This is a demonstration program. And right now we are in hour 1 when you will showcase one assessment instrument in task-specific groups. So if you want to do group oral production task, you will be in a group for group oral production tasks. Okay, task-specific breakout rooms. And it's not like an exam, it's just an opportunity to get some feedback from your peers. That's the idea, okay? And each of you should have maybe 10 to 15 minutes if you're done a little bit early. For example, self-assessment, I don't know, just finish early. We'll figure it out. And our happy hour number 2, this is an opportunity for you to ask questions about assessment. And if we have time, we'll do a little bit of review as well. Okay, so this is the plan for today. And on Wednesday, we'll have our guest speakers from last week back. So Jason Merrill will be here and Ayman will be here again. And this is when you showcase one assessment instrument in language specific groups. Okay, so you can imagine that you are teaching. You can use 100% target language. So something that you will do in the fall, right? And each of you will have 10 to 15 minutes, and then you will get feedback from your peers and from us as well. Yeah, so that's the plan. So demonstration number 1, any questions? No, I think we can start. I'm gonna stop sharing. So I think Liz, is it your turn now? I think.
Okay. Here we are, demonstration number 1. As Dima said, today we'll be doing the demonstrations in our task-specific groups. So If you said last meeting that you wanted to do self-assessment, we try to pair you with other people that are interested in self-assessment. If you said you're interested in doing the group orals, we try to pair you with people who are also doing group orals. So this way you'll get a chance to give other task like-minded individuals feedback. And in order to give you that feedback, we have created a peer cheer style rubric. And you can find this in your participant portfolios, actually. There we go. So everybody in their own portfolio, see here, we've got Sameh. This is going to be number 8 in the portfolio. So what we'll be doing is we'll be using, here we are. Oh, that might take too long to load. Oh, there we go. So we'll be using all together, right, Sameh Idris here, and then she will write her assessment instrument, and then all of us together will write our names, Fulana, Fulanito, whatever our names are. And then here we have a couple of different criteria that may be helpful. You don't need to comment on all of them, but just to get you guys thinking about what could be helpful feedback, we have that the instrument is appropriate for the target proficiency level. The instrument is appropriate for your student's age level. The instrument is easy to understand for participants. And the instrument lends itself well to differentiate between levels of performance. And here, with that, that could be anything from, is the instrument able to show me who has mastered this task and who hasn't yet? Or is the instrument able to deal with both heritage language learners as well as true beginners? Or is the instrument able to tap into ability levels for people who might have different learning impairments or physical impairments, such as perhaps they have a visual impairment or hearing impairment. So these are just some things to think about. And then down here, we also have other notes that you might want to add. And based off of Mariah, she talked to us about the single point rubric. And I think Luke, we also talked about that during the first office hours. But this peer cheer rubric is based off of the idea of a single point rubric. And we will share a couple of links for you guys here. Oops, except for that one that's trying to sell you things. Oops, okay. So, but as Sameh is presenting, for example, the rest of us will be in this Google Doc together, and we will write here areas that we think are could use some improvement, as well as areas in which we think it's excelling, and then other notes down here. So you can use this as is helpful. If you would rather not try to type and see the presentation at the same time, that's fine as well. This is just to demonstrate for you a type of peer cheer assessment that your students could be doing for one another, for example, for multimodal assessments, as well as to just give us some guidance on areas that we might want to give feedback on. So, okay. So we are going to break you guys into, sorry, we're not going to break you guys. That sounds terrible. We're going to open up 4 breakout rooms, and we're going to have them based off of these groups here. Now,
so we wanted to get to your questions first and foremost that you have for the program. These were things that you put in the chat room as we were finishing last week. So some of the things that you asked about was, how will this be picked up in the fall? I'd love to have a conversation about proficiency growth, tracking versus summative gradebook grades. Then we've been talking about that in the self-assessment group. What kinds of experience have people had creating self-assessment criteria and dialogue with students? And other things about the acquire step for input, and assessment tools for pronunciation if possible. So what we did is we picked two of these that we wanted to address right away because they're important for for the fall in particular. And one is with the, oops, let me go back, the fall 2021 and also the January, February 2022 component of the STARTALK. So you do have, if you remember, probably many of you are using this to log in every week, your binder. And we have in the packet the CLAP schedule and information sheet. So I'm going to refer you back to that to go over what our plan is. And it's this sheet that has the schedule on it. And I'll show you what it looks like. It's this one. Yours is in black and white, but electronically it's in the packet folder in your Google Drive as well. But this goes over what our different goals are. And in the fall, we will have walk-in virtual office hour sessions on Friday, September 24th, Friday, October 23rd, and Friday, December 3rd. These are from 4 to 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, and it's at the same Zoom location. So we'll be there, and we are here to help you as you implement your self-assessment, your rubrics, or your group orals, or your multimodal presentational speaking tasks. And you can talk to us about any administration issues, any questions you have, and we extend it also for other questions about assessment that you may be having in the fall, or accommodations or heritage speakers, anything you want, we're here for you. And I'm going to show this a little bigger. So those are optional, but we would love for you to try to stop in for at least one of them as you try to administer one of your assessments. Because the giant goal of this demonstration STARTALK program is that you design an assessment, you showcase it to each other, like what we're doing this week, but then you actually implement it in your class. And that's the part where you should get feedback from your students on whether it's working well or not, so that you might revise it again. So we were really ambitious when we launched the STARTALK program. We thought that we would pilot all 3 assessments in the rubrics with your classes. But now we're realizing, okay, it's going to be a little bit more pick and choose what you want to focus on, because we realize it's still COVID. It's been a hard year, and summer is also still in a difficult time. So we recognize that. So some of you might just do self-assessment. Some of you might just do group orals, or a combination of both. Whatever you want to focus on is great. And then what we were hoping, we had put D2L, but we're just using Google Drive. We dropped the D2L component to simplify things. So we hope that you upload your test score data to your portfolio folder, and we'll give you more information about that in case you would like us to do an item analysis. If you feel that you would like some information on the scoring, we would love to have your students' scores on your test in connection with your test, and we can tell you if there's any items on your self-assessment or any categories in your rubric that might need some tweaking based on an item analysis. So we will be asking for your score data with no names, and then we will do consultations one-on-one with you in either January or February at the time of your choosing. So we'll have many times available, and then you can sign up for a 30 to 45-minute session with me, and we'll go over any data questions you have or any implementation questions. If you end up not giving us your data, it's okay. That part is optional as well. But that's a session where you can use the time as you see fit. So maybe Katie Quackenbush, you just want to ask questions about language acquisition in general. You'll be able to do that in the 30 to 45-minute session if you'd like. But we also have a reflection sheet that we'll give you. It's an end of the STARTALK CLAP survey. And that we will give you, we're supposed to give the directions. We can give that on, I guess now, we will be sending it to you via email. It'll be a Qualtrics survey that you'll be filling out. And it'll just have survey questions and also some fill in the blank, open-ended questions about the entire experience. So Liz and Dima, do you have anything to add about those fall and January, February plans? Or does anyone else have any questions about it?
I just wanted to say, and this came up a little bit, probably in the in your breakout rooms as well as at the beginning of today's session, but if you haven't finished your assessment instruments, or you've finished one, but you really want to finish others as well, you can still do that over the course of the summer. So even though the synchronous sessions will end, we are still very much available if you want to keep working on things and getting feedback and meeting. So yes, that's not mentioned here officially because, as Paula said, we had thought we would be able to magically finish everything during this workshop period. But yeah, please know that we want to work with you guys and meet you where you are. And if that means finishing this later on in the summer, that's totally fine.
Or even in the early part of the fall, right? So if you want to come and get some early consultation in September, but show us something more concrete in December, that's fine as well. So if your summer is already packed and you're getting ideas and you will really put the shovel to the ground in September or October, that's okay too.
And Paula mentioned analysis, and with the power of statistics, we'll be able to identify, let's say, problematic items in your rubrics, for example. This could be very helpful too if you share your data with us. We'll try to, it's always, there's always a room for improvement, and stats can help further improve your instruments.
Any other questions or any comments? You can put them in the chat or just jump in and let us know. Do a little bit of extra wait time to see if you have any questions that come up.
Well, I'm sorry. I missed the first part, and I'm like kind of, I don't know what you're doing now. I apologize for that because I had to teach, my Middlebury program started, but like I'm ready to do whatever it needs to participate.
We'll have breakout rooms at 7:40 again. We'll open, so this is when you can present your. And we'll talk about the insurance as well. We made an announcement about it, so don't worry about it. Okay,
perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. And very briefly, someone asked, one of the questions was proficiency growth tracking versus summative gradebook grades. So I thought I'd just show you a couple slides on growth assessment. So there is a big call in educational measurement, to stop just doing achievement testing and standardized testing, but rather to measure students' growth. So even the Michigan Department of Education does not yet monitor growth in the same way that it's recommended to. So growth is when you have multiple measures of a person over time, and you can see what we call a growth curve if there are 3 or more data points. So I've got just a dummy chart here of speaking growth, where here are 3 different students. There's Ka, a heritage student, Jay, a middle school START student. So this is a fictitious first year course, let's say, in Arabic. And Nancy is a true beginner, so came to the class. So there are different levels of proficiency when they enter the class. And a 1 is ACTFL novice low, and a 2 is ACTFL novice mid, and 3 is novice high, and 4 is intermediate low. So we can think of those numbers. And these are a self-assessment, a group oral, then a multimodal presentational speaking task, going across several weeks in the first semester of the program. So something we do when we measure growth on these individual measures is we can see the starting point for these three students were very different. So the Nancy True Beginner came in with absolutely nothing in Arabic. And we can measure that and put that as our time zero or our intercept, they call it, or the start. You know, where were they when they came? And Jay, the middle school student, started in middle school, is somewhere in the middle, and the heritage learner on speaking was quite high. So when we look at their growth, we see that Ka and Jay actually had very similar patterns of growth across the semester. A lot of circling for that language depth and horizontal language proficiency building, and a little bit of upward vertical building as well, as one would expect in a short period of time. But we see that this person who came in with a 0 actually learned a lot. And that usually is true. They learn very quickly because they started from nothing. But when we look at these different areas of growth, we could probably give them all the same grade, right? If we think of their personal growth, all of them are doing what they're supposed to be doing at the level of proficiency that they came in with. They're participating, they're growing. So we might chart their development on a growth scale instead of giving them different grades, giving the A to this student, the B to this student, and the C to this student, rather than doing that, actually just giving them grades based on how well they're proceeding. We can break it down for self-assessment, looking at that alone, and you can see that there is an upward trend for the heritage student and Jay, the middle school start student. And then Nancy, the true beginner, has made the greatest leaps and bounds. Yeah. In group orals, we see kind of the same thing, that actually though Ka is doing a little bit more improvement through the group orals, where Jay is just staying stable, what we might call a plateau. And Nancy, the true beginner, is showing upward trends with some variability and depending on the score, on the task. So in that sense, that's why we want to measure growth, because growth shows so much richer data if you can plot it. And this was done just in Google spreadsheets, where you can record your students' scores and then also get a nice trend line. And if people want to learn how to do that, I can show you in office hours. So what I'll do now is I'll turn it over to Dima.
Thank you, Paula. Let me, and I think I have around 19 minutes, right? And okay, very good. And then we'll do the breakout rooms. I'm going to share my screen with you again, and we're going to do a little bit of a review and kind of go back to some of the topics that we discussed over the course of this workshop. Let's start with the big topic in applied linguistics, explicit and implicit. And Sean Lowen, if you remember, talked about explicit and implicit knowledge. And in this part of the review, we'll talk about explicit and implicit knowledge and assessment. Okay, so I have a question for you. So what type of knowledge, explicit and implicit, do these tasks tap into? Group oral production task, multimodal presentational speaking assessment, and self-assessment. And this is, you can put it somewhere here, implicit, explicit, somewhere in the middle. So where would you put group oral production task on this continuum here? Is more implicit or explicit?
Implicit.
Implicit, okay. Any other thoughts?
Depending on how spontaneous it is, of course.
Ooh, that's exactly what it is. That's a great question. We'll go back to it in a second. What about multimodal presentational speaking?
Explicit.
Explicit, very explicit. Okay, very good. What about self-assessment?
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both. Okay. Okay. Let's good ideas. So let's talk about it a little bit. Let's start with the group oral production task. Well, there is this spontaneous component. Okay, so it makes it more implicit. But again, it can also be explicit, like Svetlana said, because if students are allowed or encouraged to discuss the language, remember the language-related episodes, and based on your rubric, some of you already integrated language-related episodes in your rubrics. That's great. That's awesome. So yeah, it can be both implicit and explicit. Multimodal, it's a little bit more explicit because you can give more time to prep and think. So when you can process the language, it makes things more explicit. And they can also use language they otherwise cannot use on their own spontaneously, okay, which makes a multimodal more explicit. And self-assessment is like the definition of explicitness. It's so meta. It's just meta language. You think about the language, which makes it more explicit. So, and dependent on your purpose, like remember what Sean said was like the ultimate goal of second language acquisition is to develop implicit knowledge. So you can spontaneously speak. You don't have to think about the language, just speak, right? Like we do right now, implicit knowledge. So maybe if you want to test your students' implicit knowledge, go with oral production tasks. Now, do you hear the thunder? I apologize for that. Yeah, that's okay. We're having a mega thunderstorms here, even a tornado warning. And so another question that we probably should discuss is grammar. So that's the elephant in the room, right? We have to address it. And the first rule of dealing with an elephant is admitting that it exists. So as we know, Russian and Arabic there are more similarities than you think they are, because Arabic and Russian are extremely morphologically rich languages. A lot of morphology, right? And the thing is that we express meaning through grammar, right? And morphologically rich languages, and you can check works of Nick Ellis and his colleagues, morphologically rich languages are so difficult to acquire for learners of morphologically impoverished languages, such as English. English is not a morphologically rich language, so when native speakers of English learn Arabic or Russian, it's difficult because of the morphology part. So, and this is from one of the projects that Liz and I worked on, our eye-tracking project. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. So if your student asks you, how can I translate wrote into, or thought into Russian, and say, what do you mean? Give me more context, right? So you have like all things like aspect comes into play, perfective, imperfective, yeah, morphologically rich, okay? And questions for you. So can language educators ignore grammar in Arabic and Russian speaking assessment? And how would you integrate the complex Arabic and Russian grammar into group oral production tasks, multimodal assessment, or even self-assessment? So any suggestions? Should we just ignore it, or should we not ignore it? That is the question. What do you think?
Well, maybe on the novice, it's not ignore it, but like we do not stress on it in the novice level.
At the novice level?
That, yeah, but after that, no, they like the students will start learning that, and they will start like applying that.
Okay. So
I think even at the higher levels, you wanna de-emphasize grammar, because thinking too much about the grammar gets in the way, I think, of students actually being spontaneous in their utterances.
Too much grammar, too much thinking about grammar too. Yeah, sometimes students are afraid to make mistakes, right? Any other ideas? So you guys did 3 tasks, right? Or like on your way of doing 3 tasks or 2 tasks. So how would, in group oral production tasks, most of you are working on it. So how would you integrate grammar into a group oral production task?
I think that grammar is incorporated by are you understood? That's the way I usually think about it, especially for novices. Like if the student can be understood and can have a successful conversation, then their grammar is good enough to communicate.
Okay, so it's comprehensibility, more like comprehensibility. Okay, any other ideas? Mariah?
I also try to pick one thing, like what is the 1 or 2 grammar points that are, first, we've learned recently, and second, that are most important to comprehensibility, right? So if we're talking about our daily routines, it's going to be the present tense. Mm-hmm. Can they use the present tense? And then and so, but not focus on the other grammar that is less relevant to the purpose of the assessment.
So it's just the function, right? Okay, very good. For your purposes. Angelina, I think you raised your hand.
Actually, I wanted to say the same thing. So I would approach grammar assessment from the functional perspective. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Every morphological item has a purpose, right? For example,
Right,
like
right,
when we talk
exactly.
about this is what you mean, right? Like in Russian, we have prepositional case, right? So the meaning of prepositional case, it's a topic of conversation or location, right? So when you talk about location, they need to use prepositional case. Yeah, so that's the functionality of it. Yeah, very good. And Natalia?
I think if you ask about integration into group oral production tasks, you can provide them, for example, in Russian, if we study the verbs of movement, to use as many as possible and make it a game, not necessarily insist that they did everything right, and don't punish them for mistakes, especially in novice level, but make sure that assignment or assessment is very rich with certain grammar structures. And as somebody just mentioned, really don't worry about other things if we focus on something else. And in this case, while they prepare for assignments, they will learn so much and they will train themselves so much, especially if it's a group. It will just very good opportunity for them to practice. So
Absolutely,
practice without punishment.
Practice without punishment. I like that. That's a good. Anything else? And I know it's a little bit different for like when you work with college students and like middle school students, for example. Do you have anything about middle school and grammar in middle school, grammar in high school? Should we just ignore it in middle school? I don't know.
I'm not in middle school, but I'm just about higher education. I think the grammar has to be ignored, but after that, we need to work on grammar, common grammar mistakes, like, just to polish some grammar notions after that. But
after that, right? Okay.
After that.
That's a very interesting way to do it. Yeah, so,
because,
Yeah, that's a very interesting idea. Yeah, so you don't focus it in the assignment, right? But then you go back to grammar and
yes, we don't have to interrupt them. They need to build some kind of confidence. That's the main point. And then after that, just make some notes and like working separately, like after работа с ошибками, working with mistakes after that. Just to polish some notions of grammar structure, so they will do it again, or I don't know.
It's a brilliant idea, yeah.
So what I'm saying, we need to ignore, but we don't need to ignore them. It depends on when.
Depends on when. Yeah.
But during conversation assessment, we have to ignore grammar.
Okay, very good. If you, it depends, right? So if you want to ignore it or not, I mean, but what you can do, and this is from Paula, and I think Paula showed this example before. If you go functional, right? You can make a little point in your speaking assessment rubric. You can add it here, for example, like prepositional case in Russian. You can just add like a minor point here at the end, or do like Mona does, do a separate grammar test and just ignore it completely. Yeah, wonderful ideas. That's awesome. Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah. Stuff. And we have, I think, 7 minutes and just a little bit of review of multimodal assessment. And I really wish we had a little bit more time with this because it's such a powerful type of assessment. And you should not really underestimate it. It's just wonderful. And I'm gonna, because speaking is more than just opening your mouth, right? It's gestures, it's symbols, it's visual cues, text, media, that's all this kind of like blends in. And I think I have time. I wanted to show you an example, a very interesting example from, it will be a little different from what I showed you before because it's American Sign Language. language. So there will be no sound in this, but it's still multimodal. I'm going to show you like 1 minute of this assessment. And what the students try to do with this type of assessment is that, you know, Vines, it's a website. I mean, it's not as popular now, but there was a Vines moved to Instagram and TikTok now. But the idea is it's a short video. It's supposed to be funny. I think it's like 6 seconds long. And what the students did here, they translated some of the popular Vines into American Sign Language. And they used multiple modes. And I'm going to show it to you right now. And again, this is from the Residential College in the Arts and Humanities. Okay, and does anyone speak American Sign Language? Can sign? Okay, so yeah, this example is a little bit different, but it's still multimodal. So, and what are some modes that the students used in this video? What do you think?
Body language.
Body language, exactly. In addition to the gestures, to the signs, they also use regular gestures. Yes, it's there. Yeah, very good. Anybody else? Mariah?
Also, like facial expressions. I mean, that's part of the language of sign language, but there's a lot of emotion and shading of meaning in the facial expression.
Emotions, yeah, that's the keyword. Very good. Anything else? Remember?
They draw some things.
Yeah, exactly. They draw something on the board. Yeah. So yeah, multimodal, you see? So even no sound at all, but still multiple modes. Okay, very good. And actually, I don't know if we have time for this. Very quickly. This is an Arabic example, again, from the Residential College in the Arts and Humanities. So just a musical poster, basically. So how would you make this example multimodal? Like add some modes here. What do you think?
Having sounds for the instruments to play.
Oh, music. Yes, very good. Anything else? Videos, you can add videos, music, you can make them speak, of course, and introduce the instruments. Exactly. Anything else?
Through stories of real people who play, like maybe people from different ethnic groups, so they can connect them to real people.
Very good. Excellent ideas. Yeah, so you can add modes and maybe some modes, you see, if you add like music, for example, here, your students love music usually, so they will be very happy to explore some Arabic music, do some research. So it's not just speaking, it's a lot of reading behind the scenes, right? So please don't underestimate multimodal assessment. I think only one person wanted to do it today, so yeah, it's very good. Try to do it in your classes, and I think I'm done with my part, actually, and just want to remind you, we have a resources folder, and in this resources folder, you can find how to record PowerPoint and how to merge videos together. And I'll be happy to show to you. It really helps with multimodal assessment. And that's it for my part. If you want to continue with the breakout rooms. Yeah.
Dima, do you want to show the names of the breakout rooms if you go back up to that slide, and then Liz will open the rooms again. And I think, yeah, that one. So if you could make it full screen so people can see. So we're going to go back to the breakout rooms, and Iman, you will go to room one with group orals with Liz. All right. Thank you, everyone.